We're Hassani and Danielle Pettiford, and we're a real couple with real problems who almost called it quits.
I was very frustrated. I became very disconnected, very jaded and cold.
We have 4 children, going on 20 years of marriage, and we practice what we preach.
Our mission, to change the way couples relate to one another and teach them the skills needed to improve the quality of their relationships. This is the Couples Academy Show.
Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Couples Academy Show. My name is Hassani, and you're tuning in to the Couples Academy Show. We're featured every single day on Facebook, on YouTube, wherever you may find us. We're headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia. That is our international headquarters, and we're excited the fact that people are tuning in from all over the world, all 6 continents, and that's an amazing thing. Well, we're glad to have you on today. We're continuing in the conversation that we had yesterday where we were talking about marriage success strategies. So we're going to do part 2 of that and take our time because people want to know how to make their relationship work. And that's what we're covering today. But before we get started, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. We want people to know that there's a new show in town. It would be new to them, though it's not new to you because you've been a member of this community. So guys, without further ado, we are just a week away from the Last Chance Weekend. Some of you who are tuning in for the first time may not be aware of what that is. And so it is an opportunity for you to come together, to get away for 3 days, to do some deep dive work to help transform your life and relationship. So take a look at this. We'll be right back and get started. That's right. That's the Last Chance Weekend. It is not too late. We actually have 1 spot left. We're almost at capacity. So if you've been considering it, listen, it's going to go quickly. And we want you to be the one to take advantage of this because we want the best for you and your marriage. Many people have never done counseling before, so they have no context for what counseling could actually do. Many of you have had bad experiences. Let me just share with you that this is something uniquely different. And oftentimes you hear that difference with a lot of the testimonials that come in. And before we jump into today's conversation, had an amazing couple come from Chicago who were experiencing challenges in their marriage, and they did an intensive. And literally, I'm going to tell you something, folks. It was a wrap at the beginning. But then something happened in that process that shifted things. And they left, we say in that video you just saw, people come from a place of desperation and leave with inspiration. And I think it's quite evident in this couple. So we're going to show this right quick. Take a look and we'll get started with today's show.
Hi, my name is Dilip. I'm from Chicago. My name is Deepti. I'm also from Chicago. We are married since 13 years, and we felt that we are happy couple with 2 kids. But there are a lot of things we did not know after coming here. That last 3 or 4 days we have learned a lot.
We thought that like a traditional counseling is every week we would do the 1 hour counseling, and we come home and you forget about what we discussed and we take it from there. Actually, it was not getting us nowhere. So that's the reason we decided to come here for our private marriage internship course working with Hassani. He actually did a very tremendous job for us, and he shows us that like how actually marriage system works. And you may be successful in your life with so many ways, but you probably don't know how marriage works. Hassani will show you the system, like how marriage work, and he will give you tools to work on your day-to-day marriage life.
So I would say the first day he was listening our problems. Second day he was evaluating our personality, and third day he came with all the solution how we can improve our marriage life. So it was very valuable for us to learn where we were and where we are today. We are hoping for the beautiful future with more happiness, with more love, each and every day,
yes.
Forever.
Forever.
Isn't that amazing? Don't you love to hear success stories like that? It's an inspiration. That's what keeps us doing what we do. But good morning, Fidelina, D.O., LaShawn, Kathy, Lolita, Mr. Guy from Chicago, JG, Ronald Clark, Gorgeous Wells, Rick Bennett, Clarence, Richard, Ralph, Miss Jules, good to see you, Carmel, good to see you. Listen, guys, we're gonna go ahead and get started. We're talking about success strategies for your marriage. Now, we went through a number on yesterday. We're going to continue in this conversation. So let's go right to the next point. Stop taking one another for granted. I think this is huge. Couples have a tendency of doing this all the time. See, oftentimes in the beginning of the relationship, you're giving your love, your time, your attention, your effort. You're pouring in, you're showing the best of who you are. You want to just make your spouse happy. You value their opinion. You give honor and praise, not just in private, but in public too. You've got your boo thing, and guess what? You're living life to the fullest, but then all of a sudden things begin to shift. You know, we talk about this all the time, that oftentimes, you know, there are 4 seasons to this successful relationship: the dating season, committed courtship, engagement, and then marriage. Once you say I do, it seems like there's a shift, right? So in those 3 prior stages, if you will, or seasons, before I do, that's when it was all about me and you, and we're connecting and romancing and putting our best foot forward. But then all of a sudden when we get married, normalcy sets in. We begin to take each other for granted. We don't value each other over time because, as they say, monogamy can sometimes lead to monotony. And the level of care you don't give anymore, the level of admiration you don't provide anymore. And then, you know, you wake up one day like, where am I at and what is going on and how did we get here? And so I just want to let you know that you've got to be intentional and you've got to be consistent. I remember reading something that said, a quote by Mark Twain, and he said, you can live 2 months off of a compliment. You can live, or he was referring to himself, he could live 2 months off of one compliment. And I'm like, I don't know what world that's in, because in a relationship, that doesn't work. And if you've gone 2 long months without receiving any type of admiration, affirmation, it can literally starve out the love in that particular relationship. And we know couples where literally they will not form their lips to compliment their spouse about anything. How they look, how they're dressed, a job well done, how they show up as a spouse. Yet when they go off to work, they're hearing accolades and compliments and affirmations from everyone else. And it makes them feel some type of way in their own marriage. Like, why is it that a stranger can acknowledge me, that a coworker can acknowledge me, that somebody who observes me from a distance can acknowledge me, but the one who I live my life for, do life with, provide, serve, and everything else. I can't get you to say a thing. And so that presents the challenge. And I think that we have to shift gears. If we're taking our spouses for granted, we need to turn course, because I'm going to tell you something. People reach a breaking point. They really reach a breaking point. And you don't want natural affections, natural connections that should exist within your relationship to then begin to take place outside of that relationship, because those are the things that happen. See, there's a responsibility, a duty, and an obligation that you have as a partner in this relationship. You are just not in it to be served. You are in it to serve. When you gave your vows, when you said I do, when you said I love you, that is a act, a doing word. It is how you show up. It is how you perform in that particular relationship. But if you're just on the receiving end, then it can become parasitical, as we said on yesterday. So make sure that whatever you do not take your spouse for granted, because it can be a problem, folks. Let's go to the next one. I think this is important. You've got to pray with and for your spouse. We've said this before, that couples who really experience the greatest change and transformation in their relationship are those who engage in prayer, are those who have God as the foundation, the crux, the core of their relationship. Now listen, many of us, we have different levels of faith, maybe different levels of spiritual maturity. That's fine, right? We're all on a process of personal growth and self-development. But I think that if your relationship is going to work, God has got to be the glue, if you will, that binds you two together. And we talk about this all the time, how when you're talking about the fullness of God, you're talking about the Spirit of God and his system, the presence of God and his principles. So just choosing one and not the other, you don't have a complete or full experience. That if you want to experience breakthrough and transformation and miraculous things and supernatural things in your life and marriage, you got to bring God back in. Now listen, I get it. Many people have different faith traditions. Some people don't even believe, if you will, in a God or anything. And listen, I'm not here to judge you. I'm just simply saying from my observation, from all the work that I've done over the many years, of all the reading that I've done, when you believe in someone or something bigger and better and greater than yourself, that you can become submitted to, that can guide your life, when there's an internal moral compass within you that is shaped by a faith tradition, it helps the two of you. Because if you both share the same faith, the same belief system, have the same foundation, if you will, it helps to allow you to, as a couple, to come into alignment and to overcome challenges that you're experiencing in the relationship. Because as Christians in the book, listen, there are so many laws and principles that will guide your relationship. Like if you want to know how to fix your relationship, go to the source. Well, if God created you, and if God created marriage, which was his first institution in the earth, don't you think he's got the answers? But we go everywhere else for a solution rather than back to our source. Why? Because when we read these scriptures and when it talks about how we need to live our lives, many of us aren't ready for it yet. We're not willing to submit ourselves to a higher authority, submit ourselves to some laws and governing principles that can guide our life. But I'm telling you something now, when you bring God in and when you begin to pray with and for your spouse, you're relying above and beyond your own intellect, your own natural ability. You're adding God's super to your natural to create a supernatural transformation in your relationship. Because if you're led by God, he will lead you. He will guide you into all truth. He will give you the words to speak in due season. He will tell you when to be quiet. He will tell you how to move and navigate, but you got to remain connected to your source. Now, when you pray for your partner, it means that you're taking petitions to God on behalf of your spouse. That is a form of love and care that you can have for your spouse, to bring their concerns to him. Oftentimes when we pray, we are very selfish, self-centered, and it's all about us and what we want to get out of it. But when you begin to step outside of yourself, matter of fact, if you understand Job went through hell. He lost everything. He lost his family. He lost his resources. He lost his finances. He lost his health. The shift changed in his life when his prayers were no longer about him, but he began to pray for others. There's something in that. And so when you begin to pray for your spouse, it shows a level of care and concern. But when you pray for them, how about you pray for them with them? Right? So because when we hold hands and go to the Father in prayer, what's happening is my spouse is hearing my heart. My spouse is hearing my intimate conversations with God. That is a form of intimacy. It's called spiritual intimacy. This is one of the things that we're lacking. So oftentimes we talk about intimacy has 4 components. Most people make intimacy synonymous with sex, but that is just a component of intimacy. That's what we would call physical intimacy. But you have emotional intimacy, you have intellectual intimacy, and of course, number 4, and the most important, spiritual intimacy. And when you have a selected time where you get together and get on your knees or go for a walk or whatever your methodology is, because I'm sure, God is not legalistic. If you're walking and talking and praying, it's just as good as if you're on your knees. But the point is, you're going to the altar together in your relationship. And what that does, that forms a bond, that forms a connection, and it really allows things to happen. Because when you begin to welcome the presence of God into your home, asking for a spirit of peace and tranquility and understanding. And when you pray, God, open up our eyes to be able to see and our ears to be able to hear and our hearts to be able to receive from both you and from one another, that's when changes begin to occur. So the level of emotion and intensity that you went into that conversation with, now there's a different vibe, there's a different energy, there's a different spirit, and you're able to have courageous conversations that you weren't able to have before. You're able to gain a level of sensitivity and empathy for your spouse that you did not have before. And these are the necessary things that we've got to do if we're truly serious about making our relationship work. So listen, guys, we're talking about success strategies. I hope you're getting something out of this conversation. We're going to take a quick break and be right back and go deeper into the conversation. But feel free to post your question or give your comment about some success strategies that have worked in your relationship. We'll be right back. You're watching the Couples Academy Show. Stay tuned. Well, welcome back. This is the Couples Academy Show. You're tuning in with me, Hassani Pettiford. I'm one of the co-founders of Couples Academy, along with my incredible wife, Danielle. Listen, guys, on that commercial, you saw a book The Audacity of Marriage, 10 Principles to Lifelong Partnership. I would highly recommend you get this book. If you enjoy the show, if you get something out of it, there's nothing like sinking your teeth into some material that could truly make a difference in your marriage. And it would be something excellent to read together with your spouse. We've had churches take this book and use it as a part of their marriage ministry. We've had book clubs read this collectively. I'm telling you, there's some gems. You know, there's a lot of phenomenal books out there, but one thing that we've done in this book is we've brought in real life experiences that we've had with people and walked you through their transformation so that you can gain principles of what to do in your relationship. And on top of that, we give you a lot of how-tos. There's a lot of practicality, not just principles, but practicality. So if you're looking for something that can get you started in your journey to marital restoration, once again, you can go to Amazon.com or simply go to the website at couplesacademy.org to find out more information about this book and others. Once again, The Audacity of Marriage, 10 Principles to Lifelong Partnership. We got a question from JD Pruitt. It says, have you thought about doing a Bible study with men as a part of Couples Academy? The way that you explain and break down things is so helpful. Wow, never was asked that. That's a good thought. Let me think about that. I mean, if there's an interest in that, please let me know. If, you know, it's so interesting because everybody's given an assignment in this earth and everybody's ministry is different and everyone's platform is unique. Being called into ministry, God shared with me that he wanted me to cover marriage. He wanted me to enter into the church and to come with a message of marriage restoration and then to take that message around the world. So I love studying the Bible through the lens of marriage because there's so many nuggets. The Bible is chock full of gems. You understand what I'm saying? That is transformational from Genesis to Revelations. And so listen, if you're open to that, let me know. If you want some more of that here on this show, let me know. Al Watts says, I wish I can get my wife to listen. Listen, I got a little secret for you guys. Oftentimes when a spouse is not watching and you encourage them to watch, what you're doing in essence is you're passing a video along possibly that supports your view, your perspective, and your position on something. And sometimes they're resistant to anything that you want to share with them. Here's the key. Share a video with them that supports their side, their position, their feelings, because that will warm them up to the show. And then all of a sudden they start watching it and then watching it with you and realizing that we don't take sides. We're not biased, right? We take a comprehensive approach and we're able to speak to both sides in terms of the partners in the relationship, and it makes them more open because they're saying, okay, I could take that pill. I needed that, but I know for sure that they will also speak to something that I've been talking about that I want my spouse to hear. So that's the deal. You know, give them something that supports how they already feel as the bait to kind of draw them in, if that makes sense. All right, we're gonna go to the next one. This is we'll probably end on this today, but the next pattern is this. The next pattern. Change the patterns. That's the next point. Change the patterns. Now, here's the reality. There are marital patterns that exist in relationships, and when these marital patterns are evident, it can increase the probability of an affair. It can increase the probability of dissatisfaction, or it can increase the probability of divorce. Pattern number one is what we call the windshield wipers. The windshield wipers are what you typically find on a vehicle. You turn them on when it's raining. They work together in unison to get rid of the rain or the snow or the sleet or the hail or whatever may be coming on that window, and they work in unison. And this is a couple, by anybody's thought or estimation from a distance, that's the power couple. They really work well together. They're in sync, they're vibing, they're connecting. But when you take a closer look, windshield wipers, there's a distance between them. When one's trying to move in, the other one's backing up. When the other one's trying to move in, the other one's backing up. So they never really touch. there's always a distance. There's a disconnect. They're very task oriented. They're all about duties and responsibilities and obligations because we have to work and we have kids and there's extracurricular and we're busy doing this and busy doing that. And listen, they're involved. They vacation, they live a busy life. They do all types of things, but there's an emotional disconnect. And when think about it, the only time windshield wipers touch the other is when one is broke and needs to be fixed. And oftentimes when couples attempt this particular marital pattern, when they attempt to get too close, all of a sudden, that's uncomfortable. I don't trust this. There have been things in the past that have built up a wall to make me feel as if I can't trust this dynamic. So let's create the distance because that feels safe and that feels comfortable. And so this is a couple who may wind up self-sabotaging something pleasurable to create more of a fuss, more of a feud to create that distance. And what happens is when there's an emotional disconnect and a distance, then all other things are now introduced into that relationship that may be compromising to the success of the partnership. But that's what we call the windshield wipers. So if you're that couple, you're constantly busy, you work well together, you're duty and task oriented, this is the couple that leans in strong to their partnership because, listen, we got to make sure that the house is maintained, we got to take care of the kids, we got to pay bills, we got to do all these other things, but that romantic element that was once there no longer is, and then, heck, here we are. The second marital pattern is what we would call the dial tones, right? When you pick up your phone, if you have a house phone, you hear it. You hear the dial tone, beep, right? That's what you hear. And at some point, you're like, all right, I got to put this thing down. That's annoying. But that consistency of the tone could also be perceived as predictability. It can be perceived as boredom. There's no variety. There's no excitement. As I said, monogamy oftentimes lead to monotony, and every day feels like the same day. It's like Groundhog's Day. There's nothing to look forward to. We used to have fun. We used to date. We used to be exciting. We used to dress up for each other. Now we're just living every single day, and it comes and goes, and we are in this blah marital pattern. And there's just nothing there anymore. There's nothing there. There's nothing between us. I'm going my way. You're going your way. We have basic conversations. We eat meals together. We raise our kids together. We do the basics, but that's it. This is a couple that has experienced an emotional disconnect. You've got your friends, your spouse has got their friends, and you find more pleasure, more connection, more excitement, more fun, more thrill in that than anything else. This marital pattern creates an emotional disconnect, and now people are searching for something outside of their marriage. And I'm not always talking about infidelity, folks. That's not always the result, okay? But people are looking for something outside of their marriage or outside of their home that was once there that is no longer there, and that creates a problem. All right, then you have the third marital pattern. Third marital pattern is what we would call the child-centered marriage. The child-centered marriage is where, you know what? Everything's about that child, and it's all about that child. And we talked about this yesterday. It's all about that child. And now we're just partners, right? And we're going half on a baby, half on raising kids. And that's all we are to each other, our co-parents in this marriage. And there's no connection. There's no relationship. There's no nothing. And when that child turns 18 years old, the child is gone, and now we're possibly gone because we had nothing for those 18 years because the child was the main thing that brought us together as a couple. And that's where we find ourselves. And these patterns can create all types of challenges. But when we change the pattern because we recognize where we've gone wrong, things can begin to shift. All right. Got a couple comments. Julian says, I have a copy of your book. Do you think it takes counseling to learn how to implement the practices that your book teaches? Yes and no. It depends on the couple. It's a very practical book and tells you what steps to take. But to be honest with you, think about any book you have. How many books do you have in your home library on money, on business, on success, on faith, on health? Do we reflect everything that's in these books? I would say collectively we do not. So while books are good to help give us knowledge and a foundation, sometimes it takes somebody guiding you through a process. This is where the power of apprenticeship, this is where the power of mentorship comes into play. The power of coaching, the power of counseling. Somebody who's already made, and this is why we say rule number one should be, who do you listen to? You listen to people who have what you want and have been where you are. Now, you can read that book from cover to cover and get great insight. But when you're working with someone who actually wrote the book, the reality is there's more information, there's more wisdom, there's a high level of skill and technique that they can share and guide you through that the book doesn't allow for. A lot of times when you're writing a book, you have to leave a whole lot on the editing floor. You know, because there's not enough. I mean, a book would be 1,000 pages if you had room for everything. But who wants to read a 1,000-page book? It's not practical. So what you do is you stay in a specific lane, you have a particular focus, and you expound on that, and you reserve other information for another book. That's why we've written 10 books, folks. Not just one, but 10. Because there's different areas of life and relationship that need focus and attention. So yes, I would absolutely encourage you to do counseling because I think it would be helpful. And I hope that today's show has been helpful. I hope that it's giving you something that you need. Listen, this is just a quick 2-part series, marriage success strategies. Hopefully you got something out of it. And listen, sit down with your spouse, watch the video, strip it down, talk about this applies to you. Talk about where improvements can be made, because when you begin to do that slowly but surely, incrementally, you begin to see shifts and changes. Guys, love you so much. I will see you tomorrow morning for another episode. And listen, many of you have great ideas in terms of what you want us to cover. Do me a favor, if you're watching right now, just put right now, I'm going to stay tuned. I'm going to end the show, but I'm going to stay right here. I want to know, what do you want us to talk about? What are you in need of? What would you like to hear? What would you like to have us unpack and expound on? We're doing this every single day, not for us, but for you. And we want to make sure that we meet you where you're at. So drop a word, drop a phrase, drop a statement right here in the comment section. I promise I will read it and we will add that to our schedule of topics. Love you guys, and we will see you tomorrow. Good night.